Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Conway, and I'm the Marketing Director for Demand Chain. I'd like to welcome all of you to our webinar today, Classic to Lightning Experience, Convert with Confidence. A couple housekeeping notes. Today's session will consist of a 40-minute presentation and 20 minutes of Q&A. Since participants have been muted for the duration of the webinar, we'd ask that you submit your questions for the Q&A portion via the questions function on GoToWebinar. Now, I'd like to make two introductions. First, I was looking through the registrants this morning, and I saw some familiar faces, but also a fair number of people who are new to working with us. I also saw a handful of people from other Salesforce partners, so I just wanted to send out a personal welcome to all those folks. And give you just a little bit of background for those who may not be familiar with us. Demand Chain is a Minnesota-based Salesforce Gold partner, and we've been around for almost 20 years now. And during that time, we've done over 1,000 projects for several hundred customers. But the most gratifying part of that is our project approach of truly partnering with our clients has resulted in high satisfaction and client retention. Now, along the way, and particularly in the last 2 or 3 years, we've helped a number of clients with their transition from Salesforce Classic to Lightning Experience. And when we huddled internally, we found that there are probably a number of insights and recommendations that we wanted to put together and share with the community, which was the genesis of this webinar. So the second introduction I'd like to make is today's presenter, Demand Chain's own Stuart Edeal. Stuart's been immersed in Salesforce for well over a decade, earning 20 certifications along the way. But his motivation is not really about individual knowledge or accomplishment. He truly relishes in sharing what he knows. And to that end, he has been a presenter at Dreamforce several times. He's co-leader of the Twin Cities user group. And he's one of only about 200 Salesforce MVPs worldwide who have earned that distinction through their expertise, generosity, leadership, and advocacy. But most relevant for today, he is also a Lightning champion, another rare distinction. There are only about 200 in the world. But I'll let Stuart tell you a little bit more about that. And with that, Stuart, please take it away.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, the Lightning Champions program is something very special. Salesforce has a few different champions programs. And with the Lightning Champions program, there's a couple things that are special with this. One is that they want you to continue to track and monitor what you're doing inside of the ecosystem. There are two things that are important responsibilities that I have as a Lightning champion, and those are to continue learning about Lightning and to continue sharing my information with others. And that brings us to today. Today we're going to be discussing the Classic to Lightning conversion and some things you will need to consider when planning and preparing your conversion, such as assessing your readiness, change management for your organization, tools to use along the way, and focus areas you may encounter and ways to resolve them. So let's start out by discussing what the Lightning experience is and why we should focus on it. The Lightning experience is Salesforce's current user interface and also a growing platform based on delivering productivity for all users. Let's dispel some myths right away here. There is no date set for the Classic version of Salesforce to retire. Development tools like Visualforce and Apex are not going away. You do not have to redeploy your instance when you move to Lightning, and there is no change to your data structure or existing integrations during this conversion. Lightning experience is all about productivity. With Lightning, teams spend more time on their business process and less time juggling technology and applications. Because of Lightning's modular design, users can easily find, prioritize, and act on important work. The Lightning experience changes the view of your data from a record-based to productivity-based view. Today, instead of Salesforce being an online Rolodex with a basic user interface for capturing information, now it's a place that helps you get your work done every day. It's about guidance and tools that accelerate your business goals. And it's your daily assistant, your task manager, as well as a place for seeing all the information that you need about your customers and accounts. But productivity doesn't stop just at end users. The Lightning platform enables admins and developers to collaborate on the app development process, decreasing the time to market for innovative ideas. Lightning experience uses components to allow admins and developers to easily customize the interface and build business process so your users can work the way they want. Also, Lightning opens up the App Exchange for more partners and developers to add these components, allowing us to have access to even more functionality to add into our Lightning experience. Out of the box, you'll see a ton of new features, some of which are listed here. Improvements have been made to search, reports and dashboards. The home page has been redesigned altogether, and how your email and calendar interact with Salesforce has been upgraded. A few of my favorites include the customizable page layouts, allowing you to provide key information about accounts and contacts right at the top of the page. Also, notifications. You'll see that bell icon. Maybe you've been familiar with that with other programs. That's an alert, making it easy to be aware of things that are happening in your accounts and opportunities, alerting you of new things that you need to be aware of. And also, at the bottom here is a picture of a cases list view. List views have been improved by leaps and bounds. You can filter list views, edit inline, search inside of a list view, take mass actions on list items, create charts, and you can share list views with others. It even has a printable view now. You can print out your list views as well. There are over 146 other enhancements that I could show you that have been part of this Lightning innovation. But I would advise that no technical feature should be the main reason to move to Lightning. The best reasons to move to Lightning are due to your own business goals. Those goals could include increased productivity, improved collaboration, higher win rates. A Forrester study showed impacts of ROI up to 475% for service organizations moving to Lightning experience. So now that we've talked a little bit about what Lightning is, let's talk about the conversion process. Salesforce has a standard framework for the Lightning experience conversion, and that is in the phases of discover, rollout, and optimize. As we begin our journey into this Lightning conversion framework, let me point out that in our experience helping clients with their conversions, we found that there are some key things to keep in mind for success. We're going to refer to these today as focus areas during our discussion today. So let's discuss the first focus area, and that is value realization. Value starts with an understanding of your organization's mission and vision, which are aligned to the functional business objectives that serve your top business goals. These are manifested in questions such as, how are you measuring your metrics and key performance indicators? How would this be different in Lightning than it has been in the past? And to achieve these measures, how will you drive Salesforce usage on a daily basis at your organization? Understanding the use of Salesforce and how it meets your business goals is a very important step to start out with when moving to Lightning. Lightning can change the way that your users see your data and see your business processes. So let's move in to that first phase, the discovery phase. We will spend the most time in the discovery phase in this discussion and in real life. This is where we understand the conversion from all sides and formulate the plans around the rest of the project. If we skip or try and shortchange this discovery phase, we will struggle during the rollout and optimize phase. In discovery, we will do an assessment of the people, process, and technology involved in the solution. We will use collaboration, research, and experimentation to do all of our assessments. In the assessment of people, we need to understand the culture and potential resistance to change. To do this, we will be engaging with business leaders and champions to discover what is critical for them to make a successful outcome. We'll include stakeholders, users, managers, and leaders to discover levels of change readiness, the challenges, the successes, and any concerns that they have within this project. The assessment of people will include techniques that focus on what's in it for me, view of each customer. The goal here is to get an alignment of the people. And that brings us to area focus number 2. That's building the internal advocates. Without alignment, your users will be either allies or opponents. Transitioning to a new technology, platform, or interface can be challenging in any project. If you look at this list, this is a list of the top 10 reasons why projects fail. Only 2 out of the top 10 are from technological reasons or from an IT perspective. The other top 8 are from poor planning, poor alignment, or poor training. This is why having alignment and understanding your goals up front is very important. Some people think that change is hard and people resist change. I don't think that's true. I think that people actually don't resist change as long as they understand it. People change all the time. Some people get married, have kids, move to a different city or a different country. Those are huge changes. And they're willing to do that as long as they understand the reasons why and have some communication about what that change means. The same is true when you're doing a Lightning project or any sort of other technology project. There are ways to help build advocates and gain internal alignment early on a Lightning project. And there are tools that we can use to guide us. Salesforce has put thought into what it takes to have successful adoption. And they use these things called levers to help drive adoption during the Lightning conversion. Levers include tools, techniques, and templates that we can use to enable our users and achieve alignment in our planning. Salesforce has found that by engaging 4 out of the 6 areas you see here, that we can have 10 times the success rate in our projects. These areas include things like leadership activities, communication from leadership and behavior modeling, all the way down to enablement of knowledge transfer, training skills and understanding the tools, and down to understanding the structures, the policies and procedures within an organization. So this brings us to area focus number 3, and that is to really understand your personas, which is getting to know your people and what they need. We have seen where treating every user the same can be difficult. For example, a team leader may want to see a high-level view of accounts and opportunities, whereas a sales rep may want a guided approach that can walk them through a specific opportunity on a daily basis. Lightning allows us to customize the experience for each set of users based on their unique business process. So when we talk about business process, this is another area of assessment we need to do during discovery. We will gain awareness of internal processes and how Salesforce currently supports them. We'll review existing documentation and requirements. We'll look at activities, the channels that we reach our customers through, and the costs involved in those business structures. We'll consider both current and future state of business. In the assessment of technology, there are many tools that we have in our toolkit, including the Salesforce Lightning Readiness Check, the Salesforce Optimizer Report, a Salesforce Health Check, and an overall review of existing architecture and technical debt in the Salesforce org. Once you've finished your technical assessment, you can start to plan the implementation approach. I'm going to walk you through this chart. This is one way that we can think about an implementation approach, and that's by looking at the importance of the different features and functionality that you may have in your Salesforce org and the current adoption rate from low to high. For example, if you have some features or functionality that have a very low importance to you and they have a low current success rate and adoption rate, that may be a feature that is ready to retire. No one's using it and no one finds it to be important. Why keep it in your Salesforce org during this move? On the other hand, if you have something that's of high importance, but no one seems to be using it, this might be an option of something you can reimagine, redesign. Get together with your users, leaders, developers, and define what this would look like inside of Lightning. Lightning allows us a whole new experience, a whole new way of doing things. Let's take that experience and rewrite how this feature and functionality is going to work. On the opposite side, if you have something that has a high adoption rate, but may not be of a low importance, then we might not spend a whole lot of time and energy in it. It already works well, users seem to like it. Let's do a lift and shift. What I mean by that is make sure that this component, this feature works in Lightning, make it Lightning ready, and then do some user testing, make sure that it works. For something that has a really high importance and a high adoption rate, again, we might just make sure that it works, lift it into Lightning. Otherwise, you may try and modify things if there are features inside of Lightning that you want to add to this component. Now, in the middle, things might get a little bit difficult. There might be some things you want to retire, some things you want to move straight into Lightning, and there might be other things that this would be a good time to change them up or reimagine them. Again, it all depends on this discovery assessment you've done with your people, process, and technology. This brings us to focus area number 4. When I last moved to my new home, the hardest part for me was the packing and the shipping. Going through all the stuff I had, knowing what to keep, what to throw, and how to pack it was hard. Once I had everything in boxes and the moving truck arrived, I then had to figure out how to get it into the truck to get it into my new home. I was lost. It was like a Jenga puzzle. And then we got to my wife's piano. I cried. I didn't know how to move that. Fortunately, we called an expert piano mover. They were able to have the tools and the resource and the know-how to get the piano from one home to the other. Ensure that you have done a full impact analysis to understand all the customizations that are done in Classic and whether they're needed in Lightning and what changes it will make to move them into your Lightning experience. Also, a lesson that I have from experience, this may be a great time to move some legacy technical debt if your organization is mature and has code or apps that are no longer used. When you make that switch from Classic to Lightning, Lightning has a lot of out-of-the-box features that Classic may not have had. This might be a good time to go in and review what are some of the custom code that you've built in Classic that you no longer need. this might be a good time to do some house cleaning and get rid of that technical debt. As we're ending the discovery phase, I want to reiterate that this phase should be the most time-consuming. Another Forrester study has shown that by spending the time on planning, you can have downstream effects on the costs and productivity in later phases of the Lightning rollout. For example, what they showed in this service organization was they spent up to $320 per user on the front end in the assessment, in the approach planning, and in adoption management and training. But that resulted in around $1,400 cost per user in user productivity, in reduced technical debt, and in faster rollout time. Think about these things when you're planning your Lightning approach. The preparation, the planning is ready. Now we're going to move into the rollout phase. But I'll stop here and say that even in the rollout phase, it starts with the prepare step. What does that mean? We've done a lot of preparing, but for me, what this means is that you will have a published plan to use with your stakeholders. This here on the screen, what you're seeing is an example of a plan using some of those lever tools that we talked about earlier. Some of these tools and templates that you can use for adoption. On here, I want to point out that enablement column there. You'll see that developing and executing a communication plan and developing and executing a training strategy happen way at the beginning, almost during the discovery phase. And that's important. You don't leave the communication plan and the training plan for the very end. You start at the beginning. And this is another tip to get adoption, to get users engaged, and to really understand the whole rollout and optimize phases. You'll want to have a plan like this for your rollout as well, something that you can publish and give to your users to see what is the strategy. Demand chain works in an iterative, agile approach with our clients, and the same is true with our Lightning conversions. We will define the work on stories and tasks based on decisions made in the discovery phase. New designs will be built and tested in sandboxes. Reporting and analytics will also be designed to show the metrics and KPIs that we learned during discover phase. Training will go hand in hand during this process in an iterative fashion. During launch, we look for support from internal business champions. These internal business champions are folks that will help us with training to their peers, with user acceptance testing, with perhaps monitoring chatter groups that will help support others and train others in their groups. We'll have ongoing training that speaks to not only what is changing, but why it's changing and how it affects the users. And we'll build governance structures like steering committees or center of excellences to guide the use of Salesforce for the organization, not just now during rollout, but continuing on as you continue to use Salesforce. Involving users from step one to the end, again, it's critical for this process. Once we've rolled it out, that doesn't end the Lightning conversion. We're going to enter the optimize phase. The optimize phase, you see it's a iterative process. It's a circle. It begins after launch, but it continues forever. It talks about measure, motivate, and iterate. Salesforce publishes 3 major releases a year, and in each there are new features and functionality you may want to be aware of and you may want to put in to your Salesforce org. Salesforce offers adoption tools for you to use that will encourage users to understand the Lightning features and drive further collaboration. Some of these listed here The lightning experience prompts, the picture you see right here is an example of a lightning experience prompt that shows users some of the out-of-the-box features that they may see and why those features are important to them and how they're different from Classic. Something that I am really excited about is this configurable in-app prompt. This lets you as the admin create new sort of in the app training to direct users to specific things that you want to point out in your org that may help them along their business journey inside of Salesforce. Inside the optimize phase, you'll want to look at the usage app. This is a place to monitor your org for usage and performance. It's a great way to track adoption and usage overall of the Lightning experience. This will give you information about your active users, their browsers, and adoption levels. You can also use this to get a view of how your pages are performing and if there are specific slow pages that may be affecting your users. It will alert you to these as well. Lightning experience has so much innovation and iteration that features may exist for users' needs within the current development or future roadmap. As your internal users understand Salesforce, get to know Salesforce, and see the power and the coolness about it, they will request additional functionality and features. And so this is why focus number 7 exists, is to say that your users will ask for more. So be sure to keep your eye out on the Salesforce Lightning roadmap for an understanding of what's new and what's next. They publish this transparently to be a look at what is coming out in the next versions. This is an advantage of Salesforce's multi-tenant cloud-based software platform. We've talked a lot about Lightning, what it is, how we move to it, and things to look out along the way. So where do we start? First, if you want to know more, there are a lot of resources available to you right now. That first one we've talked about before, and I'll talk about it again, this Lightning Experience Readiness Check. It's in your setup today. It will evaluate your org's readiness for Lightning, and that is the first place to start. Other places to learn, inside of Trailhead, there are many modules and trails that talk about the Lightning experience and different features and functionality inside of Lightning. The Salesforce admin's website, they have a blog that talks about Lightning, does hands-on tips that you can follow, as well as a lot of video series that explain some of the Lightning features in depth. Also, there are a few Lightning success groups on the Success community, one of which involves Lightning champions such as me. You can go there and if you have a specific question that's been troubling you, you can ask that inside of a Lightning community, and a Lightning champion will most likely answer that question. So our final focus today is this readiness check. It's a review of the metadata in your Salesforce org to look at what is and is not ready for Lightning. It's your starting point. It will show you what's ready, but it may not explain the context of what changes you need to make or the priority of those changes. And if you have custom code that you've built, it may not exactly tell you everything about your org. So there are some things that you will need to do and know to make fixes to any incompatibility issues. But you don't have to do this alone. We have been on this journey before, and we can help you along to map out this journey. We assist our clients with the focus areas we discussed today. Again, it all starts with that Lightning readiness assessment. This leads us into discovery of gaps. and advice on implementation options, review of native functionality and Lightning experience, building clarity in the work that needs to be done, and helping educate clients and others to learn more about Lightning. Our commitment to you is this: we're offering our support to you on your journey in two different ways. One is in running the Lightning readiness check. Again, in setup, if you go to the Lightning Experience Transition Assistant, which will be the top left of the setup menu, select phase 1, the discover phase, and find the check readiness button inside of that phase 1. If desired, we can certainly help you run that check. Once you've done that, we are going to offer you a free 1-hour consultation with one of our Lightning experts to review that Lightning readiness check report and recommend the next best steps for your organization. Now, this is the end of the formal presentation. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll now hand it over to Jim for a question and answer panel.
Thanks, Stuart. That was some great information. Thanks for sharing. So I'd like to introduce the panel who will be joining Stuart of demand chain individuals. All of them have had a fairly significant amount of Lightning conversion experience. And those are Kevin Johnson, Ben Bolafew, Robin Lindeman, and Chris Mollett. Interestingly, Robin has experience leading a Classic to Lightning conversion at her prior company that she worked for before joining Demand Chain. And I thought it might be helpful just to ask her the first question, which is, Robin, during that experience, what were some key lessons that you learned that you'd want to share with the group here?
Okay, thanks, Jim. I jotted down some notes here. I'd like to reiterate a lot of the things that Stuart said that are really important, the planning phase especially. First off, we ran the Lightning readiness check, which is a great document along with Optimizer that'll help you see potential areas for improvement in the business process as well. I identified champions, both on the team level and individuals who I knew I could convert sooner and have their feedback and support in helping with helping with adoption. These would also be the power users. We had a company kickoff where I introduced Lightning to the entire team and explained our phased rollout approach. And then I met individually with subject matter experts and product owners from each of the different divisions of our company and talked through their business process, shared the readiness report with them if there were potential rules or workflows that impacted their group, talked through page layout design. Here's how you see it in Classic, and here's how it's going to be in Lightning. And also any buttons or links that needed to be converted, any custom actions. Also, an important part of the planning phase is to identify the gaps between Lightning and, between Classic and Lightning. There are fewer and fewer these days, but early on, there were some that required workarounds. And then also during the chatter group conversion process, during the conversion process, I spun up a chatter group specifically for the effort. And so folks could post their questions, have their questions answered, and identify areas of concern that they had. So if they were coming across a bug or something didn't look right on a page, they could point to that and show members of the conversion team. So just like to reiterate what Stuart had said, planning is well worth the investment of time. And we are here to make you guys a success. So that's all I have.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. I see a couple of questions queuing up here. A reminder to the rest of you, if you do have a question you'd like to ask the panel, please do so in the questions box located on the GoToWebinar form. So the next question looks maybe a little more specific in nature. What do you recommend when transitioning attachments to files? Kevin, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's one big change between Classic and Lightning is just the transition from the traditional attachment model to what they call the files model, which is a more robust way of actually sharing files across objects and people in Lightning. And so, yeah, that can be a pretty tedious event to do, but to take heart, there is a free app exchange app out there called Magic Mover. That I've used in the past with my teams, where it simply goes in and through the configuration, it walks you through how to configure the app, and then also how to go and convert these files from these attachments to the file nomenclature. Some advice with that though is you might want to have an idea of the scope of files that you have in the system, because one of my conversions took a weekend because these files are processed in batches. And so, it's always good to test. So make sure you're well ahead of the curve there and get an idea of the number of attachments. And also, if at all possible, have a full sandbox when you test that, because that gives you all of the files and attachments in scope of your org so that you get a really good idea of what it would take to move those files over. But yeah, it's a great tool and the best, and it has the great pricing of being free. So I'd recommend that.
Fantastic, thanks, Kevin. The next question: what have you found to be the biggest challenge when transitioning from Classic to Lightning Experience? Maybe I'll have Chris start out with that, but other panelists feel free to chime in.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Jim. So we've heard quite a few of them touched on today. Just a couple that I want to highlight, and then Stuart talked about really aligning the goals with this change. I think the biggest thing that's maybe misunderstood or maybe not thought about as much is the whole change management component of this. It's easy to say that the functionality of Classic is not changing. It's really the user interface. But with that user interface, there's going to be new page layouts. And as Stuart mentioned, we're going to more a productivity-based look and feel to these page layouts, and instead of a record type. And with that, things change. And so it's really important, to Robin's point, to get involved up front and have a training plan, have a change management plan in place, and get folks involved early in the process so that as you go through this process, they're understanding the change is coming, they understand what's in it for them, and they understand why we're doing this. And to what Stuart said, when they understand the change and why they're doing it and how it's going to improve their experience, then it's much easier for them to accept. And one of the slides we saw that resistance by employees is one of the major reasons that goes way down when you get people involved up front with the change management. So if anyone else has anything to add, I'll let them do it.
All right, well, it sounds like you might have covered all the bases there, Chris, thanks. The next one is, what recommendations do you have to ensure successful testing? And anyone want to take a stab at that?
I can give it a shot at that. To ensure successful testing, you have to know what the actual requirements are, right? That is, we talk about change management, we talk about process management, we talk about a lot of these fundamental things. No matter what you're trying to do, if you don't have a good handle on what is expected at the end, then you can't accurately test, you can't accurately plan, you can't put anything in place. Understanding and vetting business requirements, documenting your processes, all those things are going to kind of grease the skids for every step of the process from inception to completion. That's where I would try and focus my time.
I can jump on that too a little bit, Ben. So with the training plan is very important, right? A lot of times training isn't thought about up front. It's one of those afterthoughts of saying, oh, we're about ready to deploy. We should probably have someone take a look at this and do a test. And it's maybe a day or two of testing, which if it's brand new to the users and they don't, it's the first time for them seeing it, you probably don't get the testing that you need. So having that testing up front and part of the process is very, very important too.
Yeah, and one thing I'll chime in too is know your environment. So if you're lucky enough to have a full sandbox, great. You know, you have your full complement of data that you can test against. But if you're going against a partial sandbox, for example, you know, make sure you're aware of, you know, the data set that's available in that sandbox, so that when you're going through your testing scripts, you know, you're feeling confident that you're hitting all kind of business scenarios.
Great, thanks, guys. Looks like we have one more at this point. Beyond the actual designing of the system, meaning from Classic to Lightning Experience, what else should we be thinking about? Kevin, you want to take a first shot at that?
Yeah, there's several things that, you know, I've considered in the past, but one big thing is building awareness, you know, with the users, you know, change management, you know, which Stuart echoed early on. You know, and some of the ways of doing that is, you know, just getting out in front of the project itself. Once you have an idea of, you know, what you'll be rolling out and what it may look like, it doesn't have to be in the final state, but start building awareness with the teams. You know, it could be with the SME, and the SME would then bring it to the team itself, or it could be a webinar, it could be a video you post on an internal site. But it's just, you know, you want to start to articulate, this is coming, number one. Number two, this is how it's adding value to you. So you want to build that case, you know, of you know, again, change is good, you know, but it's better if you plan for it and you know what's coming. So, you know, for me, it's building awareness. And again, those various channels of, it could be a video, an email, a simple presentation, or, you know, brown bag lunches, you know, where you can come in and demo it while people are having lunch too, would be a good thing. So that'd be my advice.
To add on to Kevin's point here, another thing that we've learned along the way is that this, going in, it seems like a technology change, but in its essence, it really has very little to do with technology. The technology part is honestly the easiest part. It really is a business change. And to give you an example of that, recently had a Lightning conversion where we moved the Classic to Lightning, and then after it was done, the sales rep said, well, this is great, but it doesn't really achieve our needs. And after talking to them further, we said, well, tell us about your needs. They said, well, we have a specific solution selling sales process that our management has asked us to do, where we have specific questions and advice that we have to take our clients through along the path of selling our products to them. And we were able to incorporate that then into the Lightning process by using Path, by using specific questions inside of the opportunities along the way, and able to guide sales reps into their daily life. And that had very little to do with the technology we were using, and it had everything to do with asking the right business questions to the stakeholders involved. And so I think that even beyond Salesforce, the best thing that we can do is really be that trusted advisor and ask those business questions to the leaders and to the reps to say, what is it that you're trying to get out of this technology? How are you doing your daily work?
Great, thanks, Stuart. Looks like we have one more question here. If anyone wants to slip in a last minute one, please go ahead and start thinking about that. This question is, as an accidental admin working on conversions, is this recorded so that I can sit down with my president and CEO to watch with them? Yes, we are recording today's session. We expect to have that available no later than Thursday, but most likely tomorrow. We'll be emailing the link out to all registrants and attendees of today's session in the event that you want to share that with others in your organization. Yeah, so I think that wraps up the questions portion of this section. Thanks everyone for those questions. Good questions and some good insights from the team. So I just wanted to reiterate next steps. It's really only a two-step process. Go ahead and complete the Lightning Experience Readiness Check if you haven't already done that. That'll result in a very helpful document. And then, we're here to help. There's no commitment or anything. Just contact us. There's the phone number. You can reach out and fill out a contact form on the website, demandchain.com, or you can feel free to email directly at info@demandchain.com. We would welcome the discussion. And so with that, that completes today's webinar. And on behalf of the Demand Chain team, I'd like to thank each of you for carving out some time out of your day to spend with us. If you have any questions at all about a transition to Lightning experience or any other Salesforce question, please reach out. We would welcome that. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.